First and foremost, I just want to say happy Thursday. Hope you're all having a great day so far and a fabulous week. And just know that we're only 2 sleeps away from the weekend. So, all of that to say, thank you for tuning in to our Accelerate series webinar for the month of April. This month's training is all about elevating your client meetings with AssetMap. Now, the purpose of today's training is definitely going to be a little bit different than some of the trainings that I've hosted in the past. This is definitely a little bit less point and click on how the features I'm going to touch on actually work, but actual ways that we can think about speaking about these features and communicating that in our client meetings. So I am going to touch on a variety of features within AssetMap. Again, if you see a feature and you're like, I don't really even know how that feature works, unfortunately, I won't have time to go through every single feature and the ins and outs and how it works, but lucky for you, I have past recordings on pretty much anything that we have in the application feature-wise. We also have an incredible knowledge base that's readily available to you at any time, and of course, our amazing support team. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first question I often get asked is this being recorded? Yes, it is. I will make sure that everybody that signed up for today's call gets access to the recording. If you're an enterprise client, I may have to submit the recording and get it approved before I can send it to you. So just be mindful of that. If you're an enterprise client, you'll know who you are, and just know that we'll get it uploaded into the knowledge base regardless, for everybody. Once all those things take place. So many of you on today's call, you'll get an email probably within the hour after our session concludes. Those of you that don't get an email, just know that we'll get it approved through compliance and then we'll get it added into your support center and we'll be good to go from there. All right, so with April's topic kicking off this month of elevating your client meetings with AssetMap, I'll take a first moment to introduce myself. My name is LiaJean McHenry. I'm our Senior Manager of Customer Success here at AssetMap. I just celebrated my 5-year anniversary at AssetMap last Sunday, so very exciting. Can't believe it's been 5 years. A lot of you on today's call, I've known you for almost that entire time, which is crazy. A lot of you are new too. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, but really proud to work for this incredible company and all the hard work that we've done over the years together and excited for what's to come. So for a lot of you that have been following along with me, you've been tuning into the Accelerate series webinars now for probably almost close to 5 years as well. So, and we're going to keep on rocking and keep on doing this moving forward. Now, our agenda today for elevating our client meetings with AssetMap is I want to give some tips and tricks with presenting live in our client meetings or speaking to the following features that you see on the screen. So I'm not going to teach you like what these features are and how they work. I'll give you cliff notes, right? If you're brand new, I don't want you to be overwhelmed that you don't know what any of these things are, but I'm not going to be able to go into depth to each, okay? Typically, we have webinars that cover each of these features individually. So we do have past recordings and we do have weekly trainings that you can attend. We've got the support team. So if you need help after today's session, please don't worry. Now, I'm going to go over some best practices with presenting the AssetMap. I'm going to show you some tips and some tricks and some hidden gems there. Also some language and some framing that you can use. I'm also going to touch on discovery, stencils, drafts, signals, and target maps. Okay. These are just some primary features that you may be using live in your client meetings. And I think it's important for you to kind of hear some language as to how I would use it in a client meeting, how I have used it in presentations and things like that moving forward. As always, we'll wrap up with support and resources. If you have questions, you can always use the chat feature in Zoom. I do keep that pulled up on my other monitor and I'm really good about watching it. If you have a question that's applicable for the group, I will answer it in front of everybody. If your question's a little bit more case specific, I might have to table and ask that we take it offline or you reach out to the support team, or you can stick around at the end and I can certainly get it answered for you. Now, today's training is roughly going to go for the next 45 minutes, so that should put us right around the 50-minute mark. I did have today's training scheduled out until 4, though, just because we've had some really good questions at the end as of late, and I know that sometimes people are disappointed that they have to drop off because they thought it was only going to be 45 minutes. So I've extended it to an hour, but we will likely wrap up just a little bit earlier, okay? All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff, and let's get started. Where we're going to start today, excuse me, is I'm going to go ahead and log into the application. Now, I would say that probably one of the biggest areas of AssetMap is none other than the asset map itself, right? The visual of where people are today. For many of you, you probably saw an ad or had a colleague or someone that showed you an asset map and that intrigued you to want to learn more. You probably then reached out and got a demo or decided to sign up or whatever the case is. I would say that every single one of your clients and prospects deserve this map. Okay. Whether you call it the asset map, the financial map, a map, it's completely up to you. I mean, I think the important thing is that you can kind of brand some of these things to be whatever you want them to be called. Like, you don't have to call it the asset map, right? I work with hundreds of firms, and I've got some firms that call it the financial map, the financial inventory, the financial x-ray, right? You can pick what language you would like to use. But whenever I'm going to present an asset map in front of a client, if I do it digitally, the first thing I start off with is just explaining how this is designed. I say, Neil and Lauren, as you can see on the screen, I've taken the liberty of building you a financial map of where you and your family are today. How this map is structured is I have the two of you featured in the middle and the most important people in your life and or entities and things that are tied to you up along the top. I even added in your dog here. By the way, if you didn't know, you can add pets now. That is new, but pets for many people are members of their family, and so if you wanted to be able to include them now, you can. And then I would say, listen, how this is structured, I've got the two of you featured in the middle. Down below between the two of you is your jointly owned assets. Up top is going to be those protection and legal instruments. And then on each of your respective sides, we're going to break out your cash flow income sources first, followed by your individual assets. Now, the way that this map is structured is you'll notice some boxes are outlined in different colors. This is by design. These colors indicate whether or not it's a cash flow income source, like these outlined in bright teal. If it's an insurance asset, outlined in dark blue. If it's a retirement account, outlined in hot pink. Okay. I had a gentleman call me the other day. He said, I don't like that the retirement assets are outlined in red. It doesn't look good. People associate red with bad. I said, sir, it's not red. It's hot pink. I know it might look that way, but you can always keep your legend open at the bottom and you can show and rest assured to yourself and to your clients, like, listen, it's pink. That's just the way that it's coded. Okay. If you don't see the legend on the bottom of your digital asset map, you might want to turn that on. That can be helpful from a presentation standpoint. It's a key and a reminder for yourself. But it can also be something that if you cover what I just did, which is me explaining why some of these things are outlined in the colors that they are, I could say again, some of these things outlined in green just mean it's a non-retirement asset. Things like checking, savings, more liquid accounts, things that you might pull from before or during retirement. And then, of course, we got things like liabilities that are outlined in orange, right? But sometimes what's nice to do is have the legend always appear at the bottom. I leave that on always, but not everybody has it turned on. So you can do that by just right-clicking your mouse to get to your quick actions menu. You can also use your full actions menu on the upper left, the colorful plus mark. And all you got to do is come to toggle visibility and just make sure that legend is checked on. Okay, if you check legend on, that's going to set you up for success. Now, when it comes to the asset map itself, there's also some hidden gems and things that you might want to utilize. Number one being the marker tool. Whenever I'm giving a presentation and I'm trying to draw attention on to something in particular on a household asset map, I like to leverage the marker tool. The marker tool is built in app. You can use it anywhere in asset map. We give you two defaulted colors, black and red, and the third color you can pick from this custom paint tray, which I don't know about you, but I always love when I get to pick a custom color. Okay. But this allows you to then draw on the screen and you could say, Lauren, I'd like to start with you over on the right. These are your cash flow income sources. Everything looking good here. Is this salary in fact still correct? 120,000 a year? It is? Okay, great. Moving on. What about Social Security? Last time I got this was just an estimated statement. Did you bring the statement with you today? You did. Okay, excellent, right? I could get rid of the marker. I could click into the Social Security and she could show me I'm supposed to get 55,000 if I take it at 67. Okay, great. So I can come in here, I can update that material and I can go ahead and click save. Now you might notice that on some of my tiles, I have added little emojis. Why is that? Well, we have a functionality available in Asset Map. I don't necessarily like to call it an Asset Map feature per se, because I don't know if it was designed necessarily to be an Asset Map feature, but rather something that you can do in Asset Map. But any time that you click into a member or an entity or a financial, anywhere where you can type in someone's name or a location or uh, a policy holder, anything, anywhere where you can type out like free text, you can add an emoji. So let's say, for example, that Neil likes to golf. So I could click into Neil and I could go next to Neil's name and I could right click my mouse. If you're on a Windows computer, you right click your mouse, you can access emoji. If you're on an Apple, I think you double click your keypad. If not, you might have to Google it. I apologize. I don't use Apple computers. Nothing against Apple. I just have always had Windows computers, so that's just what I have. Okay. Now, if I click on emoji here, I can use the search bar. I can type in what I'm looking for, like golf, for example. I can add an emoji and click update. Now, I'm being a little kitschy here by saying you can add, an icon. I would say more importantly, I use the emojis for, preparing for annual review meetings or preparing for fact-finding meetings or preparing for new opportunity meetings. Why? Because I use it as an indicator for myself so I don't forget to talk about something. For example, Lauren's old 401k, I collected this data as a placeholder from her months ago, and I have still yet to receive an actual balance of how much money is still at her old employer 401k that she's elected to not roll over. So what I did is I came to the location field, I right clicked my mouse, I came to emoji. I personally like to just use colored dots and things like a question mark or a dollar sign or a check mark or an X mark, just like the basic things that you likely see through any type of financial programs and things like that. So usually what I'll do is I'll just come in here and I'll start typing in red circle. I'd click on the circle, it would add it in, and then I could click update. And that red dot is a reminder to me, like, this is a placeholder and we're still missing that information and I need to gather that. Now, a red dot to you could mean something completely different. There is no like key to what these dots mean. It's whatever you want it to mean. Now, the key thing that I always like to reiterate here, though, is I'm not a part of your compliance department. Okay. So when you put emojis on the digital map, they stay in asset map for this household until you choose to get rid of them. Which also means that if I come over here to my menu on the left and go down to reports, and if I generate this report in a deliverable format, these emojis are going to be on the report printout. Now, I haven't really heard specifically that any compliance team have a really big problem with it being on the printout, but if there was going to be a problem, I think it would probably be if it's on the report printout, right? I think that if you can use it in application digitally when you're giving a live presentation, I think that that probably might be fine. If you're not sure though, you got to do your due diligence. Okay. Unfortunately, every compliance department can be a little bit different, and I don't want to tell you that it's going to be 100% okay for you to do that if potentially it won't be. So you got to do your due diligence, but I'm showing you what has worked well for some people in the past. So like, let's say I'm getting ready to do a deliverable for these folks. I might come in here and remove any emojis that I don't want to be on the printout, because if you leave them, they're going to be on the printout. Now, like for this example, I added in a proposed new insurance policy because in target maps, there's no button for you to add a proposed new insurance policy. So the workaround is that you add the recommended or the hypothetical policy to the asset map itself. Well, anytime I add anything hypothetical to a household's physical base case on their asset map, I just like to notate it so that I don't forget that this is like hypothetical. It doesn't exist. I put this here for presentation purposes. I want to talk more about this later. And so like I put a blue dot, for example. Over on the left, you'll notice I put a question mark. Sometimes when I'm preparing for an annual review meeting, one of my favorite things to do is to intentionally go into instruments, cash flows, liabilities, legal instruments, anything. And what I like to do is I like to go into the notes tab and I like to write out any intentional questions that I don't want to forget to ask. Okay. So back in January, when I was starting to do some preemptive work for this particular household for an upcoming review that I have with them in the next like week or so, I proactively wrote out some questions. Now, I always date the notes section, because if you don't date it, we're not going to date it for you. Okay. So just be mindful of that. So I put a question mark emoji as a reminder for myself, don't forget to ask the questions that you have. Now, a great question just came into the chat. Will emojis show on the client view online as well? This individual is speaking to the client portal, and the answer is yes. If your digital view of the household's asset map looks like this, that's the exact view that their asset map digitally is going to look like for them through their client portal online. So just be mindful of that. But To be honest, some people use that to their advantage. They'll use colored dots and they'll say, Lauren, log into your client portal. And please just notice that all of the tiles that I've put an orange dot, that those are the things that I'm still missing updated statements for. So if you wouldn't mind just gathering those updated values and or statements and getting them over to us, we would appreciate it. We'll get your map updated for you ASAP. Okay. So just be mindful of that. Okay. So when it comes to the asset map itself, I would say that the biggest thing is really just knowing how to speak to what this is as part of your process. And I think part of how we do that is just introducing asset map for the first time. You know, one of the things that I like to do is when I'm sharing about like how a business is structured, like an example might be like we here at Main Street Financial believe that one of the best things that we can do for you is build you an accurate picture of where you are today. We do this through using a tool that allows us to build you a financial map of where you and your family are today. We believe that this is vital. In fact, that this is an asset for your estate. This is something we provide to everyone we work with. Here's a sample example, or here's your map that I've built for you on the screen. And the thing is this, we believe that if we have a solid understanding of where you are today, we can then focus on where you want to go, and we'll be the ones to help you get there. Just like a GPS navigation, I have to know where you are as a starting point in order for me to direct you for where you want to go. The financial situation and the financial concepts that we advise on, it's no different. I mean, the more you know, the better. Even if all you're going to do is help someone with a slice, right? We're going to only be helping someone from an insurance perspective, fair, but you still need to know the full picture in order to properly advise. People choose to not tell you everything. You're going to plan off of a piece. And in the end, maybe the plan that you're going to come up with isn't going to be what's most accurate and or appropriate for them. That's not on you. I mean, to some degree, they have to be the ones to make sure that they give it to you. But I think that leaning on the asset map report to help you do that and not using it in a way to, I don't want to use the word slimy because I don't think any of us on today's call are slimy in any capacity, but it really should be like, let me gather everything that you have so that I can help you. It shouldn't be like, tell me what's missing here, what's being managed elsewhere. It's all about positioning. If you can approach people with empathy and let them know that you care about them, like that's what's going to set you apart. That's going to be something in this industry that no robo advisor is ever going to be able to do, is draw in that human connection, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be connected. Everybody wants to know that someone cares about them. Even the people who act like they don't, deep down, I think do. That's my own personal opinion. But I think you have an opportunity by showing people I am taking the liberty of building this for you because I care. And I would be remiss if we're missing information, because in the end, the plan that we plan for may not be correct. And I would be devastated if it didn't work for you. So the more I know, the better. If you got money being managed elsewhere, that's perfectly fine. Let's just get it on the map. Okay, you could even show your map to the other advisors that you're working with. There you go. If you take the pressure off, I just think that people are going to be much more likely to work with you. Now, how do we get to this point, though, of successfully building out an asset map? I think one of the things to just reiterate is there are 3 different ways to get households added into the application: manual entry, discovery, and integrations. Okay. Now, depending on how you prefer, okay, depending on how you prefer to do this, I would say that probably, I don't know. I've trained a lot of people over the last 5 years. I would say that the number one way people probably prefer to get households added in is through discovery. Now, discovery was originally designed and intended for prospects, leads, new clients. Why? Because it's a digital fact finder. The intention is that we generate a link, we send it to the lead, they fill out the questions, they click all done, it adds a household into asset map. You can then work off of them moving forward. But what I think people forget is like, how do we even speak to Asset Maps Discovery Fact Finder? Like, how do we leverage this, right? Like, how do I frame it? How do I talk about it? Well, here's how you can do that. What I like to do personally is every new lead and prospect I onboard using Discovery. Okay. And I use it as a pre-meeting requisite. So let's say that I have a prospect that's coming in on Friday, tomorrow, okay, or Monday. It doesn't matter. Maybe I realize, okay, this prospect is coming in tomorrow at 10 a.m. and I do want to onboard them through Discovery. Here's what you do. When you come into Discovery, you have to decide, do you want to make an outbound link or do you want to use your inbound link? Either one's going to be fine. The questions of the digital fact finder are preset and the same. So maybe I want to pre-brand the welcome page with the prospect's name on it. That's going to be outbound. Okay. So let's say I got a guy coming in on Friday and his name is Gary Miller. So if I come in here and I type in Gary Miller's name and I click initiate interview, it's my responsibility to copy this link and send it to Gary and explain to him what this is and why I want him to fill it out. So I could copy this link and go write up my own email. I have a little email template here. If I prefer, I can copy the subject line, go paste it in my email. I can copy this body message, go put it in my email. This little email template's pre-branded with his name on it, and the link in the middle here is unique to Gary. This link is the same link that's behind the copy link button, and it's the same link if you were to click launch now. So if I click launch now, this is exactly what it's going to look like. It's going to be pre-branded with Gary's name on it. And it's a great extension of me, the financial professional. So what I would do is I would send this via email and I would explain to Gary, we here at Main Street Financial believe that one of the best things we can do for you is build you an accurate picture of where you are today. We've invested in a technology that allows us to do this by building you an asset map. See example below. Now, in preparation for our meeting tomorrow, I'm going to ask that you please take 10 to 15 minutes to fill out this quick digital fact finder. Rest assured, we don't ask for account numbers, social security, or birth dates. This is high level, but the more you add, the closer we're going to get to an accurate picture of where you are today, and then we can focus on where you want to go and how we're going to help you get there. So I could copy this link and I can send it off to Gary. Okay. Now, notice how in that example of framing, I suggested that if you're going to send a prospect through the Discovery Fact Finder link, sometimes having a visual aid to show them an example of what they're going to get is really powerful. Why? Because arguably, I would say that most people are visual, right? Some people can take it in, auditorily and can kind of imagine what it is you're talking about, but sometimes people are tired. Sometimes people are working long weeks. People got kids. People got busy lives. There's a lot going on in the world, right? Sometimes people's brains are a little bit overloaded and they don't know how to picture what it is that you're talking about. Showing an example, it can be a great way to do that. So in framing discovery, one of the things that you might consider is clicking your search bar and typing in the word sample. You have 6 or 7 fully built out fictional fake clients already available to you in Asset Map at any time, with the exception of a few of mine, because mine I created on my own. Okay, but you all should have 6 or 7. If you go up into your magnifying glass on the upper left and you type in the word sample and you don't see anything there, that's okay. We just have to turn them on for you. All you got to do is come down here, open up the support center, come to chat with us and just say, could you please enable sample clients for me? And they'll get that added. Okay, so in terms of framing discovery, I think the key points that you need to take away here is you need to explain like what they're going to get out of it. I don't know about you, but I'm not clicking on a link for anything unless you tell me what it is and why I need to do it. And if you can provide me a visual representation of what I'm going to get, that's going to create better buy-in for me. I'm going to feel more comfortable. Because believe it or not, I'm like very risk adverse with things like that because, cyber threats and things like that are very, very real. I have people in my own life that have gone through things by clicking on wrong links and it's terrible. And I don't ever want to go through it. Not that I think anyone's going to think that, you're giving them a bad link, but, people can be a little bit timid about it. And I think the more, clear and secure that you can make them feel about it, to understand this is high level. We don't ask for account numbers. We don't ask for birth dates. We don't ask for social security numbers. I do think it puts people at ease. And I think you're going to find that you're going to get a more completed picture by just being honest and upfront. Now, on the flip side, you can leverage your inbound link at any time. Your inbound link is one link handy you can send off to anyone. Any one of you that's looking to do mass marketing and potentially you want to onboard, a large sum of people all at once into Asset Map, you're going to use your inbound discovery interview link. You will never use outbound for mass lead generation because you can't. Outbound is one link specific to the name that you type in. So you can create 20 different outbound links and send it to those 20 different leads. That's great for warm leads, referrals, people that you already have maybe a meeting set up with, you already have a little bit of information on. But for like cold lead generation, we're doing, marketing on our website. We're doing social media campaigns. We're doing drip campaigns. We've got a third party that we pay for, qualified leads. For anything like that, you're going to want to leverage your inbound discovery interview link. Now, I'm not going to go over the specifics of discovery today because my hope is that you've already leveraged discovery once. If you're brand new, I want you to dive in and start learning more about discovery. We have tons of articles, webinars, in our group training that we offer every single week. We talk about discovery, the ins and outs of it. The other cool thing is that your inbound link does come as a QR code, which some people are leveraging in a marketing aspect as well. One key thing before we move on, because I just can't not say it because it drives me nuts when people don't have this set up. It doesn't drive me nuts like I'm upset with people, because if you just don't know to do it, of course you don't know to do it. It just drives me nuts because it could just look so much better if you just have this set up, which is the following. All of you later today need to click on your main menu on the upper right, and you got to come to your user preferences section. Please, for everything on this earth, make sure that you've got something here in the profile picture. Ideally, you want to add your profile picture, but hey, you don't like any pictures of yourself, at least add your company logo or something. The picture here flows through to your Discovery Fact Finder links, outbound and inbound. So if you don't add anything here, the discovery interview is going to have a silhouette of a cartoon avatar. It looks like a photo should be there, but there's no photo. Does it look bad? I mean, I guess not terrible, but does it look as good as being an extension of yourself? Arguably, I would say no. Okay. The other key thing to remember is over here on the left-hand side, you need to make sure you got your contact information updated, please. Okay. Your contact info flows through to all the client deliverables in the application, unless you're on a firm office setup. And if you're on a firm office setup and you have like remove lead advisor's name from reports turned on, that would be the only case where this doesn't matter. But that's exclusively for office setup. So those are going to be for teams of 3 or more advisors that have opted into asset map office pricing and things like that. Okay. Separate from enterprise and things like that too. Now, if you have designations, you need to add them here in the suffix section. Okay. You got a CFP, CHCL. I can't even think of all the other ones. I might have even said that one wrong. There's so many. Okay. I looked up all the different types of designations people can have. I mean, it's like a laundry list. So if you have those designations, you worked hard to get them. So I would add them. And the best place to do it is in the suffix section. Separate them by commas. Okay. Okay, great question coming into the chat. If you have someone call out of the blue from the website or referral, would you send them an inbound link to pre-qualify? 1000%. I mean, listen, in general, anytime I have a new lead or a prospect that's coming in, whether or not I may even want to take them on as a client, or even if I have a meeting scheduled as a anything, just as like a pre-meeting requisite, anything, I would say one of the first things we like to do is we like to build you a map of where you were today. This allows us to kind of see where you are. This will be valid for your estate. Regardless, we'll give you a copy of this, and you can position it any way you want. You can say, I'm going to provide this to you complimentary. This is a part of our package. You know, like we won't charge you a fee for this the first time, like, because everybody's like fee and, you know, pay structures and things like that are different. But to your question, yeah, I would say that if a lead comes in from your website, or you get a cold referral that comes over to you, I would reach out to that person and ask to schedule time, like a quick meeting, whether it's like a 15-minute phone call or whatever. But just say, one of the things we like to do prior to that is have you fill this out. It takes 10 minutes. We don't ask for account numbers, birth dates, or social security. So regardless, if you don't want to work with us, you know, if we decide we're not a good fit or something like that, we are still going to build you a financial map. We will give you a copy of it so that you can save it for your estate. Okay. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next section, which is stencils. I think one of the main areas that people tend to overlook is that there's so many different ways that you can leverage stencils. Stencils are actually a natural next step after discovery. So if I actually have a household here that came through the Discovery Fact Finder, and if I open up this household and I go right to the asset map report, you can see, actually, I'm going to clear the stencil. I apologize. I did a training earlier today and I forgot to clear. Okay. So here's a perfect example of a client, or prospect rather, that I onboarded through the Discovery Fact Finder. This is what she filled out. Is this every little thing that she has? Probably not, because it does look like she marked she had insurance and she marked she had some additional investments, and I don't see everything listed here. But maybe this is everything she has, but I'd at least be willing to ask or want to inquire more, right? The natural next step would be to apply a stencil. So if you have a lead or a prospect that's coming in for a meeting and you send them through Discovery, and then they, you know, the household gets added and you open it up, sometimes their map is going to look like this. Well, you may not have the full picture, and that's perfectly fine. You should never be discouraged about that. If these are people that you don't know, you're not a mind reader. Like, don't worry about it. You should have no problem putting an incomplete map in front of people and positioning it in a way that says, listen, I care about you. Let's get this completed. Okay. It makes me sad when people get so stuck on the asset map having to be perfect, even for their current clients. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, the accounts that you manage, you should be able to look up what those values are and accurately tell someone. Like, you should be able to do that today if somebody called you. But everything else, if like they told you 6 months ago that they think they have $100,000 in their savings account, but you never saw a statement, like, of course you're not going to know it 100%. Don't worry about it. Build people's map out as best as you can and present it to them. Present it in a way that shows, I care about you. Let's get this accurate. Because you know what? People don't want to think about the inevitable and horrible things that happen all the time, but they do. They do. They do. Sudden loss, it's the worst. Okay. A lot of you know that I have very deep experiences with that. My dad was killed by a drunk driver 3 years ago. I never thought anything like that would ever happen to my family. And then, boom, it happens. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, well, what accounts did he like? Did he have a 401k? Like, what insurance policies does he have? Like, everything became about money so fast. Not money of like who's going to get money, but my mom, like, my poor mom is left behind. And we're like, well, like, okay, so he's not going to be working anymore because unfortunately he's passed away. So now that we just have one income and my mom still has to pay off the rest of the house. And, she's a preschool teacher. My mother's a saint, and my mother was freaking out, and it's scary and it's terrible. And the first thing I did for her is I built her an asset map. And you know what? I felt really lucky that I worked for a company that has a product that actually helps people because it helped my mom. And it's weird because I'd worked at Asset Map for like 2 years already at this point, and I knew that the map was so important. But then I had my own personal experience, and I'm like, wow, like people need this. And if it's not for you, it's for your spouse. And if it's not for your spouse, it's for your kids. Because you know what? It's not like people can look at an asset map and take money from people. No, it just shows them what's there. And God forbid if something happens, they at least know that I could reach out to the financial advisor and they're going to help me. You all have a really unique opportunity to help people. What you do is so important. And I will always attest to that. I think that arguably, like, your financial health is just as important as your physical. So, just like doctors are valued, like, I think that if you are really acting in the best interest for your clients and you're helping them make smart decisions and build, put plans in action, like, arguably, like, you have just as much value in my mind, because there's a huge lack of financial literacy that's happening in the world. And honestly, like, thank God for people like you that have invested in technology to help your clients. So thank you for that. Okay. Now, if this gal is going to be coming in, what I would do in preparation is I'd apply a stencil. You can do that by just right clicking your mouse, click stencil, and click apply. Each advisor has 2 tabs, My Stencils and the Public Library. My Stencils will be blank for all of you unless you create your own custom stencils, but you can always come to the Public Library. You can select the drop down. We've got like 20 plus custom built stencils that we built alongside financial professionals that work with these niche markets. Most of our stencils are built off of time of life, occupation, generation. You can comb through this list in your own time. Okay, we have tons of resources on stencils. To the left of each stencil, you can preview it, so you can open it up and you can see like what's going to get applied. Okay, that way if you don't like that one, you can pick another one that you prefer. You can pick that stencil and you can choose to apply it. Watch what happens in seconds. These placeholders get overlaid onto this household asset map and it builds it out a bit more. And now I have something that's really nice that I can put in front of this gal and we can gather any missing information. Now, before we talk about framing with stencils, usually what's going to happen is when you overlay a stencil, you may have stencil placeholders that are duplicates for information that you already have. You may have stencil placeholders that are for topics that are not applicable to the conversation that you're looking to have or you're not prepared to talk about in this meeting. This is why, as a best practice, I recommend not applying a stencil in front of a client or prospect, but instead applying it before. And the reason for that is that you can apply it before and then you can clean it up. So you can remove the things that you need to. The best way to do that is to leverage the search and select tool on the upper right-hand side. And all you have to do is select on the tiles that you want to remove. I don't need a placeholder for Social Security. Okay. I don't need a placeholder for the job. She already told me that information. I don't need a placeholder for checking and saving. She told me that. She already told me about her home and her mortgage. And I know she only has the one outright. Okay. So with that, I'm going to click delete and I'll delete those 6 stencil placeholders. As a reminder, whenever you overlay a stencil, you'll know because stencil placeholders are outlined in light gray. Okay, the box's outlined color is light gray, meaning that this is a placeholder, and I put this here to ask the question, do you have this? Okay, how am I going to frame this? I would say, Hannah, thank you so much for coming in today, and thank you for providing the information that you did when you went through that digital discovery. As you can see on the screen and on the paper copy in front of you, because again, I could have come here to the report section and I could have printed off this asset map report. When you print an asset map report and the stencil's applied, the stencil will be on the report printout too. But that's nice because then everybody can have something tangible they can physically hold and follow along on the screen. It's also a recommendation for you all if you have clients that are like of hard of seeing, okay? And I could say, listen, Hannah, as you can see, I've started to building a map of your assets. Now, some of these tiles that you see here are outlined in color. That's the information that you provided to me. Thank you again for doing that. But I did take the liberty of putting a few placeholders here outlined in light gray, simply because your peers that fall in your age and your income bracket sometimes have one or two accounts in these different areas. And because you marked you had insurance and because you marked you had some additional investment assets, I wasn't quite sure what those were. And I would just be remiss if we're missing anything. I want this to be accurate. This is an asset for your estate. God forbid something happens, we want to make sure we get this set up. Okay. And we can kind of go from there. And so if Hannah's like, well, yeah, I'm so glad that you asked. I actually have an IUL policy it's got a $500,000 death benefit. Great. I can either open up the tile that notated that she filled out that she had insurance when she went through discovery. Okay, I can just open that up, or I could even open a stencil placeholder. Okay, permanent or term. So I could come in here and I could say that she's got a variable, I'll say a universal life. Okay, market that's owned by Hannah. I could come in here and I could say IUL, could put where it's held at, and then I could put the death benefit, which she told me $500,000. Okay, and I could go ahead and click save. Now she might also say, well, listen, I also have a 401k, but I can't remember the provider because my employer just switched it. I'll have to give it to you later. Fine. I can click into a stencil placeholder and just click update, and we can add the details later. She might say, I do have a Roth IRA. I think it has $20,000 in it right now. I'll need to check. Fine. I can click update. It can be a placeholder value to start. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, we can add the details later. All right. The question just came in about, can I re-show? How did I preview a stencil? All you have to do is right-click your mouse, go to Stencils, click Apply, go to the public library or your My Stencils drop-down. It doesn't matter. In the drop-down list to the left is a little picture icon. Whenever you click on that, it'll give you a preview. It'll say, hey, if you overlay this, this is what's going to get overlaid. Okay. Now, a couple last things to frame before we wrap up today, and we're going to move through these a little bit quicker because I don't want to get into the weeds of how these features work, because I think that you'll want to attend separate training for that. So I strictly want to focus on framing, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is going to a completed household here. So I'm going to go back to a household that I have pre-created for the sake of today's call. And I just want to talk about asset map drafts, okay? Asset map drafts allow you to create a carbon copy of a household's map to show illustrative changes. Because, one of the hardest things I think sometimes for clients to do is follow along with us with what we're trying to explain. Like, for example, Neil has these two old 401ks, and I think it's time that we do something about it. I think we need to move that money into accounts that we manage, that we can control how they're invested. And frankly, we just found out that he's still paying fees over there. It's time to do something about it. But you know what? I don't want to adjust his actual asset map because this is the base case. Right? This is the base case. This should be tried and true for what they're doing today, like what they have today, etc. So instead, what I could do is I can create a draft. To right-click your mouse, if you right-click your mouse, you can access drafts. Okay? If you want to create a new one, you can do it here. We're not going to go over how to create a draft and how to make adjustments. We have separate training that you can attend for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a draft. Okay? So I could bring this up in front of Neil and Lauren and say, listen, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today before you leave, Neil, is specifically, I'm going to open up a copy of your asset map. I've done that here, okay, in this drafted version. On the bottom left, Neil, what I'm trying to illustrate to you is I'm going to suggest that we close those two accounts out. Now, if these values are in fact still up to date, that's about $114,000. So we would close these two accounts out. I'm going to suggest we take your existing E-Trade account that has $25,000 in it today. I want to make a small investment there. So I'd like to put 10 grand into that account, bringing it up to roughly about $35,000. Now, you recently opened a Schwab IRA. It has roughly about, 8,600 bucks in it. I'm just going to suggest that we move the remaining $104,000 into the Schwab IRA. We just open that. We manage that for you. Okay. And then we'll be able to invest how that's being done. Again, let me show you what this looks like. This is where you, the advisor, could come down to the bottom right-hand side and click Hide Changes. This is where we are today. You've got these two accounts. They're sitting over at old employers. You're paying fees. You have a Schwab IRA that we just opened with 8,600 bucks in it and an E-Trade account with 25 grand. Again, what I'm suggesting or what I'm proposing or what I'm trying to illustrate here is the following. Close the two accounts out. Move 104 into the new Schwab IRA. Let's move 10 grand into the E-Trade and let's get going from there. Okay. That's the power of drafts. Drafts don't speak to anything from like a financial output standpoint of being able to show, hey, if you do this, you're going to be in a better, like X percent more funded. Okay. As of today, drafts don't flow through to target maps. But what a lot of advisors are finding success in doing is sometimes building the draft first to just explain to the clients, this is what I'm suggesting that we do so that they can start thinking, okay, so we close this account out and then we move the money over. Then what you could do is you can come into target maps and you could build their base case if they do nothing and then clone that target map. That's what I always suggest, okay? When it comes to target maps, you should always build the base case or whatever it is that you're trying to illustrate to start. Scenario A, okay? Scenario 1, whatever you want it to do. Once you've gone through the target map, you made sure that the math is correct, you've done everything that you need to do, that's where you can leverage the cloning feature, okay? You can clone a target map in seconds. Now, I always say you got to do the math and make sure that it's correct before you start cloning things, because if you just like frivolously add a target map and change one or two things and then start cloning, it's going to get confusing because you kind of need to build like your solid base case first that you know the math is correct, it's tried, it's true. You can clone off of that, and then in the cloned scenarios, you can change variables. For example, like the reason I put this proposed new term policy on the map was the following, okay? This signals section, which signals has a predictive model built into the back end, it can be found in every single household. What fuels the signals is the asset map. We're looking at the primary client and the spouse, their ages, their incomes, and their assets. And it spits out in signals as an indicator or a screening tool for me to say, hey, does it look like they can financially weather these critical life events? Now, the loss of life target map actually triggered red for me earlier today. And I clicked into the details tab. It tells me what the signal's based on. It gives me some considerations. I went to the target map area because signals isn't a perfect solve. So I went to target maps because target maps is where we do the math. We run the numbers. We quantify. Are you on track? Yes or no? And if not, what's the problem? And what do we do together to fix it? So I ran a loss of life analysis for just the primary client to start. And with the current insurance, we're only 45% funded. So it makes sense that the signal brought to my attention that there's likely a problem. Well, when I was running this analysis, I determined that we've got about a $980,000 deficit. Okay. And that's, so there you go. The deficit's 980, which means what? If he passes away yesterday, his wife would have to come up with $980,000. I'd have to invest that money and average it at a 4% rate of return in order for this gap to be funded. Most people don't have just $1 million laying under their mattress, right? And she'll probably be present in the meeting thinking to herself, like, there's no way I'm going to be able to come up with close to $1 million. Okay, well, let's look at the working years that he would have been working, right? That's about 22 years. Well, this $980,000 deficit broken out over the 22 years he would have been working, if something did tragically happen and he passed away yesterday or today, comes out to about $5,500 a month. Well, what does that mean? It means, Neil, if you pass away today or yesterday, because I don't like to put that out in the universe for people, your wife would either have to write a check for $980,000 in order to fund this. And we're not even looking at the retirement years. We're just looking at the years that you would have been working. Okay. And if she can't do that, well, then she'd have to come up with an additional $5,500 a month every month for the 22 years you would have been working. And she might be sitting right next to him like, there's no way. Well, I guarantee that you all have products and solutions and things that would have benefits and or payouts and things where the premium on those products and solutions might be a heck of a lot less than 5,500 bucks a month every month for 22 years. What's more important to you? Pay 3 grand a year now, which comes out to what, like 250 bucks a month or something like that, or 300 bucks a month every single month for a year, so that God forbid something happens to you, your family's taken care of. It comes, it depends. So with signals from a framing perspective, I like to do the following. It's a touch point. You don't want to stay too long on the signals page, okay? Because we don't share the math with you. You don't want to be getting into the weeds trying to explain any form of math regarding signals to your clients. It is a touch point, okay? So what I like to do is I like to start on the asset map report. And I say, listen, over the course of our relationship, now that we have a general idea of where you are today, it's a good starting point. Just know that we've invested in a technology here to the left that also allows us to use this screening tool. This just lets us know if there's any areas that might be of a concern. Now, you might notice that there's some areas in red and yellow, but it could still be because we're still missing some information from you. So the sooner we get the completed picture, the sooner we can get to work actually running the numbers specific to you. And we'll do that, and we'll test those what if scenarios. We will build out your goals and determine, are you on track? And we're going to do that through the use of our features here, which are target maps. Okay. The purpose of target maps is for us to illustrate, are you on track? Yes or no? And if you're not, what are we going to do together to fix it? So over the course of our relationship, I will always make sure that you are on track for your goals. And if there's any areas that stand out as a concern, or if any of those what if scenarios get presented that could be a problem, we care about you and we want to be one of the first people to bring that to your attention. So even if there's things that we don't manage, if we see that there could be a problem, we're going to be the first to bring it to your attention. That way you can pull in the proper parties and things like that, and or we can continue to help you. Okay. As we start to wrap up today's call, if you want to learn more about signals and target maps, lucky for you, we offer signals and target map training every single week. So we offer this Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so if you want to register or sign up for those trainings or need a little bit of review, you can. All of this to say that I think that there are tons of ways for you to incorporate asset map into your client meetings. And if you're somebody who's going to be leveraging multiple areas, like in an annual review, because in an annual review, you might start on the asset map report, you might check in on their signals, you'll then move into target maps. Are we still on track for our goals? Yes. By the way, this popped up as a concern for loss of life. We ran the numbers. I think we need to talk about this. You can use your menu. Now, how I prefer to do it is I keep my menu condensed on the left when I'm presenting live in front of a client, whether in person or remotely or up on the screen, it doesn't matter. I don't really like to leave this extended over on the left because that's where people start to get, into the weeds and start asking questions about areas that you may not be ready to talk about. Now, we do have 3 interactive reports you can use. Don't forget about those: the balance sheet, the policy summary, and the beneficiary report. So if you're in an annual review meeting or even just in a fact-finding meeting and you want to have a net worth conversation, come to the balance sheet. You can turn everybody on. You can limit who's up here at the top. Same thing for the policy summary. Maybe only Neil's coming in and we just want to talk about life insurance and those legal instruments to have a detailed conversation about it. Great. You can do that on the fly. You can also come to the beneficiary report. Start those early estate planning conversations. One of the number one things, you have to make sure that your beneficiaries are tidied up and set and clean, right? This is a powerful report to let you do that. You can look at one person at a time and flip between primary and or contingent. You really want to pay attention to the unassigned column. That just means if something hasn't been notated of having a primary or contingent beneficiary, and we may not know that information, and we should bring it to their attention to get it in order. All right. Because people put it off. I even just realized yesterday that I have 2 accounts that I don't even have a beneficiary listed on it, which, I mean, that would be terrible. Like if something happened to me, I would at least want my family to be able to get the proceeds of those accounts and, donate money in my honor or bless people in my honor or do something. But like, imagine that that's not even the case. Like that, it's going to get wrapped up in probate in the state. Okay. So something that we have to keep in mind. And don't forget that you can always flip to the beneficiary visualization view. It's the exact same information. It's just a different way to design to show the information. Okay, so just make sure that you remember that you've got those available there too. All of this to say, after you present something live, always good to give people something that's tangible that they can hold on to. So don't forget about reports being a great option. Don't forget about the Asset Map Client Portal as being a great way to let people log in and view their digital map at any time. We are currently beta testing for a new feature enhancement that will likely be coming out soon called Client Suggest. And the idea behind that, also, if you're an enterprise client, just be aware it's going to have to get approved through compliance first before it would be able to be rolled out to you. So, disclaimer, okay? And sometimes that process can take a bit. So, I always have to put that out there. Basically, what Client Suggest is going to allow is an advisor could turn on Client Suggest for anyone that they've given a client portal with Asset Map. So, I could tell Lauren, in preparation for our annual review coming up in the next month, I've given you access. Next time you log into your Asset Map client portal, you'll be able to update your map. So they'll be able to go in and digitally update their asset map through their client portal. They can make edits to existing tiles, add new tiles, remove tiles. Nothing gets automatically processed though. Everything will be submitted to the advisor as kind of like an audit, like, hey, Lauren wants to change her old 401k value to $70,000. Do you want to approve or deny it? And the idea behind that is that the advisor can kind of control, and if something sticks out as being a potential issue, you may not approve it, and you may want to call them and have a conversation first. Again, if you're an enterprise client, any new features that are going to be coming out soon, they have to go through compliance, and then compliance will make a decision whether or not you will be able to have access to that. So just want to be straightforward there. All right, as we start to wrap up today, one of the last things I want to ask you is just giving you two very quick polls. Many of you have likely seen these before. The first one I want to ask is, do you love Asset Map? If you've had good experiences with Asset Map so far, you like what you're using, but you might want to learn more. I'm going to ask you another poll question in a second. The first thing is, do you love Asset Map? If you love Asset Map, are you willing to leave us? Are you willing to leave us an honest review? And if the answer is yes, I'm just going to ask that you very quickly fill out this link. I'm going to go ahead and post it in the chat. Our peers in this industry, when they're looking for technology that can, help them moving forward. Oh, that's the Google review. I didn't mean to give you that one. Well, you could do a Google review if you want to, but here's also the reputable G2 website. A lot of people go there. By the way, if you're ever looking to examine technology, G2 is a great place to go. It's very reputable, and you can look up other technology providers and kind of see reviews to see what people have to say. And they're really good about it because they're able to cut out any type of like like fake reviews and things like that too. The last question I have for everybody is there any areas or topics that you feel like you need more training on? Now, today I highlighted a number of features, right? I talked about the asset map. I talked about discovery lightly, stencils, drafts, signals, target maps. If there is an area that you feel like you need more information on, let me know in the chat, and there's potential for me to maybe design an upcoming training around that topic. And if anything, our support team can reach out to you with some additional resources, and we can kind of go from there. All right, so I'll go ahead and end that poll. If anybody needs to add anything different, you can just go ahead and add it into the chat, and I can take note of it that way. As we wrap up today, our final comments are the following. Always be on the lookout for next month's Accelerate Series webinar. We'll likely have that available and promoted in the next week or two, so be on the lookout. If you said that you would be willing to, leave us a review, I gave you two options. You can either leave it through G2, or you're welcome to do it via Google review. For the gentleman that just wrote in about that you can't access the G2 link because your employer might be like blocking it, I'll also send it out via our follow-up email, and so you can always forward the follow-up email that I'm going to send to like your private email, and you could like fill it out on your phone or something like that if you prefer. Okay, great question just came into the chat. Is there a video of Adam using Asset Map with a client that we can watch? That's a great question. So, we do have an expert Asset Map University course that does give tons of examples of Adam using Asset Map in practice. But that course you do have to pay for that course in order to access it. If you have interest in that, I can give you information on it. But as far as like something that's just like readily available now, yes, if you go in app, you can go ahead and click on the chat bubble on the upper right. That's just another way to open up the support. We actually do have a video of him talking about how he introduces Asset Map to clients. So if you come in here and you just start type in the word script, we actually have a PDF downloadable script, and then we have a little video that's like 7-minute long of Adam introducing Asset Map in client meetings. So Option number one, introduction to prospects, is a PDF script. Option number two, how to introduce ASMAP in a meeting, has a little video here. Other than that, obviously there's like past recorded webinars and things that he's hosted where he's given some examples. The other thing to consider is we do have ASMAP Virtual Bootcamp coming up. And that's actually the next thing I was going to talk to you all about. If you're on the elite level subscription of ASMAP, you get to come to bootcamp for free. And that's like a $900 ticket because bootcamp is 3 days. Well, our Q2 bootcamp is kicking off next week. It's April 22nd through 24th. You can come to this site here to learn more about it. You can sign up for, there I am, that's me. So weird to look at yourself on camera like that. You can scroll down though. We have 3 ticket options. You can sign up for just Bootcamp 101, you can sign up for Bootcamp 201, or you can come to all 3 days, which is our combo option. Okay. Adam takes part in Bootcamp 201, so that's days 2 and day 3. And so you're welcome to register. I can't give the promo code for elite level subscribers on the call because there are people that are not on the elite level subscription, and I just can't have people using the code if you're not on that subscription level. But you're welcome to reach out to the support team and we'll just verify your subscription level first, and then as long as you're an elite level subscriber, we'll give you that cost. Regardless, if you want to learn more about bootcamp, I'm going to go ahead and post something in here. You can click the following link to learn more about it. If you're an elite level subscriber, remember bootcamp is included in your subscription at no cost. If you're a professional level subscriber, we already ended early bird pricing several weeks ago, but I do have a couple spots left for professional users. So if you do want to snag a seat, I would recommend you do so, and I'll give you a little coupon here to take some of that off for you. Other than that, all I have left for us to say today is, what did you think of today's webinar? If you don't mind taking a second and just providing me your honest feedback, I would appreciate it. I do take feedback pretty seriously. You know, at the end of the day, I think part of the reason why I've been able to excel in this business is based off of listening to feedback from the people that I train directly. And so I'm always receptive to that. I'll post a link here in the chat if you want to click on a link, or you can scan the QR code. It's a quick, I think, 2-question survey, but I would appreciate it. Other than that, that's all I have for us today. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you found the last hour valuable. That's always my goal. I never want you to feel like this was a waste of time. And I hope I've inspired something in you today, whether that's to learn about a new feature, or maybe, you know, practicing using some of that framing and language in upcoming meetings. And if you want to book more time, you're welcome to do so. Reach out to the support team and can book a one-on-one or case review or whatever you need. We're here to help you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. I'll stay on for the next couple minutes, so if anyone has any outstanding questions, you can add them into the chat. Otherwise, thanks so much and enjoy the rest of your week. See you at the next one.